to begin speaking with our listeners today's topic.
And I'm sure they're very eagerly awaiting what you have to say as well. Not so much me, but you. All
We chat,
right.
we chat.
Yes, we do chat. All right. So today we are going to be talking about how to handle your bank account right for savings. And
Yes, that's
yes,
right.
it having a bank account, you really need to handle it and handle it properly for sure. Last episode, we were actually speaking about children and the importance of them learning how to develop good money habits. And today
Yes.
we're going to be talking to the adults. So I'm sure all the adults are like, okay, it's our turn. Let's do this. So today we're going to be talking about some of the tips and things that we can do to help us to become bank account experts.
Yeah, that's right, that is because when you open an account with a bank, we do it for savings generally, or just to have our money safe. But what we do in there is that we start in a relationship with the bank, and most likely, you will keep your bank account and that relationship with the bank all your adult life. So banks end up knowing quite a lot about you. Banks know how much money you have, how much money you're making, what's your income, knows your spending habits as well. And bank can use all of this, what your credit is like, and they can use all of this to offer you different types of banking products. Not just the savings accounts. And there are certain things about the functioning and the cost of operating your bank account that we tend not to pay attention to. We just take for granted, perhaps. And for example, we think that the main thing is to keep the money safe, so we forget that there are certain fees and charges that apply to the account. And we don't really take much time to pay attention to those small fees and charges, or those other ways in which we could be benefiting from being a customer of the bank. And so we be not concerned about the cost of the account or the opportunity cost that we missing by not developing a good relationship with the bank.
Yeah, some of those things we really don't actually pay attention to. But I'm thinking
Hmm.
that monitoring your account daily or closely, as much as you can anyway, to point those things out, it's pretty important, yeah?
Yeah, it is. It's very important. And it would be important, not just for knowing what you have, but also, you know, the bank is human, and we are human. The banks, humans operate in the banks, and our accounts, we are humans. Mistakes can be made on either side. And if you're monitoring your account closely, then you'd be able to pick up these mistakes early. And the earlier you pick up mistakes or errors or situations, things you don't understand, is the easier it is for the bank to amend or to clarify, and for you to get peace of mind as well. So imagine that you try to correct something that you discover years or months down the road because you were not monitoring your account. That would be harder to deal with, you see.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, so what are some of the things that we actually should be looking out for in the instance where something does go wrong?
Right. And so handling your account for saving means that you want to make sure everything is up and good all the time. Now, if something goes wrong, or an issue comes up, with the way in which you want to use your account, or even you have a special request, I would say you want to do the right thing, and you want to do perhaps three things. You want to check on the right time, have the right person in front of you, and you want to have the right attitude as well. Right time means that you go to the bank to deal with issues that you have, not your regular. If you have an issue come up or there are errors, you want to go to the bank when the bank is not busy. So, for example, don't go on the first of the month or the last day of the month, even the 15th of the month. Fortnightly, transactions are heavy. So you want to go at some time when the bank is not so busy. You also don't want to go around lunchtime. lunchtime.
Yeah.
Lunchtime for banks is somewhere between 11, 11:30, and 2 o'clock, as they do shifts. Persons go on shifts, so that the bank is always, operating. It never closes for lunch. People are going on shift. But you don't want to go around that time, because that time, people are preparing to go, grab a bite, or they're just back from it, or they're out still. So you want to do that. Generally, it is thought that the bank's best time for queries and so on, quiet times, is Thursday mornings, maybe about 10 o'clock. Tuesday mornings as well. I mean, that's not a rule, we just say, but your branch, and right time. Don't go trying to deal with issues that are complicated, or errors, or problematic, or special requests you have when people are busy and can't take you on. The right person, it's important to be speaking with the right person. there are different levels, approval levels in banks. You have your teller, you have your supervisor, you have your manager, your regional manager even. So, depending on how serious the issue is, you want to be speaking at the right level, and right person is important, and right attitude. To me, I think right attitude is about the most critical, because you want to be in there. I usually do this, I don't usually do that. I observe this, and I don't know how it happened, but can you assist? As politely as possible, because as we say, you will get much more out of honey than you will get out of vinegar. See?
True, but the thing is, when you're dealing with money, the vinegar tends to come out more
I
than the honey.
know, I know. That's why it's an important tip to know. If it is that something goes wrong, you might be as angry or as confused as you can be, but still you want to pay attention to handle your account manager, your banker, in a gingerly way, knowing that it's not only your problem they are addressing. They have to be on the P's and Q's from 9 to 5, 8 to 4, whatever the shift is, and you are just one of the other that they meet in. But that's right.
So basically, just wait for a response. Temper yourself.
Mhm.
Wait for a response, and
Mhm.
I guess if you don't like what you're hearing, when I say step it up a little, I don't mean go full on but just okay, you take a firmer stance, or say I don't understand what you're telling me, that kind of thing. So I think maybe, like you were saying, right time, right person, and right attitude.
Correct,
Okay.
correct. Yes.
What about you having your own records straight as well? That would be very important in order to spot when there's a difference and you're like, huh, that doesn't look quite right.
Very correct. You see, the thing is that the bank and you have shared responsibility to make sure that things are going correct, that things are okay. And so when the bank send you statements, the bank send you, in these days they even send you text messages and emails. And so the idea here is that you have information and you are able to make informed decision. Read what they send you, so that you're up to date with what is going on with your account and with your bank and your relationship with that bank. So if you find an error, something wrong today, the important thing is also, even just something you don't understand. You see, Sharon, sometimes these statements, they have little things add on. Maybe the bank did a press release about something and
You
you didn't
missed
pay
it, yeah.
attention, you didn't hear it, or it was published while you were working or something like that. You didn't realize that. So once you have something, just bring the situation up immediately with the bank staff available to you. And as I always say, if it's something serious, you try to get the right person as well, so that you can get a proper answer.
Okay. What would be some of the things that people should know about their account to help them handle it right for savings?
Right. And this would be if you open an account, as well as if you just analyzing, evaluating your account. As I say, some people tend to hold the same bank account for life. They don't pay attention to the options available between and among banks. So let's make the point that not all banks are equal, number one. And number two, let's make the point that some of the things that we will be saying here, might sound as though we're speaking about your bank, but this is a disclaimer to say we're not really speaking about any particular bank. But a good question, an important question to ask is, how can I avoid monthly service charges
There's a way to
or
avoid
service
that?
charges in general? Yes, but you have to ask. The point is, there is a way. So some, for example, maintenance fees. Some banks do not charge maintenance fees if you are having your income, if you are having your account at a certain level, at a certain minimum balance. So maybe you never know that, it's never said to you, but if you check it out and you ask, they can say, well, accounts that have $500 on it as a minimum balance, and there is an alert for that minimum balance, we don't charge a fee. We only charge a fee if it falls below that balance and remain that way for 15 days, something like that. So some banks have those sort of, and as the banking environment is so competitive, you find these changes have been coming about over the years in order to attract and to keep, especially customers. And so, you want to ask about that. A direct deposit, for example, if your salary is going into your bank account and the bank has that, there are certain fees that you are not charged based on that. You might have transfer fees, for example, standing orders. Because your salary is coming in, you might find that you have the opportunity to have one standing order free. so that that transfers from your savings account, to which your salary comes, to your checking account or your operating account, which is where you use your spending from, or to a savings account, which is a separate one from your account to which your salary goes. So you ask those questions and you discuss it with the bank, because there are ways in which you can have a less cost to operating and maintaining your account by the way in which you use the account, and that is built into the arrangement you have with the bank and the type of transactions that you have on the bank. So that would be one thing you can do. If you can't avoid the service fees, because I mean, I think your question is correct. People would have stopped asking, or not even imagine they can have those opportunities to have less cost on their bank account, because you've always been told no. But if you can't, then it's still an important question for handling your account, right? How much will it cost? Make sure you know how much it will cost, what the fees are exactly for maintaining your account, or for using your account for certain transactions. So that's important, so that you know what it costs, so you can handle your transactions, you can handle your balances, etc. Well, right? Another thing is another thing you can ask, what exactly are the service fees that exist, so that you could know what these are. Now, we are saying ask, but in these days you can also check it out on your bank's website, right?
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of websites have the fees up, and you could check it out there. But asking in your relationship is pretty good. Here's another point, right? There are situations where you're so long with your bank, and so you have what is an arrangement where, if you are not an arrangement, a natural thing whereby if you are spending, say on your debit card, and you spend a little more than you have, the bank might cover it, not reject the transaction, and you go into over limit. That's called non-sufficient funds. So if you go into non-sufficient funds, then you got through with your transaction at the point of sale or online, wherever, but you are negative. So you're now owing the bank that overdrawn fee, and that amount, and that attracts a charge as well. In fact, that charge could go up to as far as $80 in some cases, well, above $80. And so you want to be careful about that. If you do have that arrangement, one of the things you can do for handling your account well and to helping you, depends on your discipline, depends on your situation, is to opt out of it. So you can ask your bank to opt out of it, so that what will happen is that if you are overdrawing your account at the store or anyway with your debit card, the transaction is rejected, so that you don't have to pay that additional fee. I mean, $80 is a lot of money.
A lot.
So you want to do that, yes?
Yeah. As you mentioned, cards. What about debit cards and using them at ATMs?
Right. That's another important thing to know, right? Different banks have different prices or fees, different fees for using the ATM. Some banks, you use the ATM, you pay $175, others you pay $150, and several banks, a bank I know, you have up to 5 free ATM transactions. And beyond that, you begin to pay now the $150 to $175. You should know that for your bank, because your bank would have a charge which is not the same as another bank. But you might see it on your statement and you know what it is, but you may not be aware that you have a certain number minimum that you can get free. So that's a way of handling your account well as also. So if you are going to use it for withdrawals, you really would want to compute and budget yourself, as we use the word budget all the time, to see how much you would need in this period. And you take your ATM visits to the level where it is, let's call it like scientific. It's intentional. It's intentional. So you don't go every old time, you take a certain amount. Because again, at the ATM, you have upper limits. So most ATMs around the place, it's maybe 1,000, 1,500, some is 1,002 that you can do in a day. So, you plan yourself as to what you want to do. So as convenient as it is, you want to be aware of it. Another important thing about using your card at the ATM is the difference between using it at your bank's ATM and use it at another bank's ATM. When you use it at another bank's ATM, immediately you're talking about an additional money. In some cases, it is $14. In other cases, it's 2% of the transaction that you do. In fact, when it is international, it is always a percentage of the transaction that, not always, it is often a percentage of the transaction that you do as well at the ATM with your debit card. So you want to know these things as well. Yes, at the ATM, there are charges and fees.
Yeah, and I know that information up front because those figures you were giving, I'm like, what? Okay, I didn't know that. Um, so we're being encouraged, of course, to go cashless. And
Yes.
we're being encouraged to use our debit cards more. And for some people, they're credit cards. But I guess for most of us who can't do a credit card, a debit card. So use a
Yes.
debit card. You go shopping for groceries. I guess you should also know then that once you use your card there, that there is a fee associated with that as well. Is it?
Yes. Now, not some banks have the fee for using your debit card in the annual maintenance fee, the annual account maintenance and card servicing fee. Others, but the way credit card companies and banks make money with these cards is on the transaction. So every transaction really carries a rate for them. So they have commissions and so that they get from the use of the card. But for the account owner, it is rare that you will actually see the price of it. But a merchant, depending on where you are, which country and so on, merchants would charge a fee that comes onto your card as well. The key thing to know is that the bank is not paying for these things. The merchant is not paying for this convenience. It is actually you paying for it, and you paying for it in your account. So that's why it's important to know for your online purchases, for your point of sale purchases with your debit card, what fees are there for that. So I took, for example, and as I say, you can go to the ATM. I actually brought this computer here with my. You can go to the website of certain companies, and like in the ECCU area, the ECCB actually has collated fees. When I checked the website, though, it was 2020, so it's not updated for 2021. But there you can already see that there are some point of sale fees that goes. If you are doing withdrawals, it is $14. So if you are taking cash, even point of sale ATM, here there is a 2% of transaction in this comparison they're given here. Let's switch to another country. Online purchase fees is 2% of transaction. And this is using the card. This is actually using the card. I mean, if you had a PayPal account and you went to PayPal, you'll see they have breakdown and so on. Here, when you're using a card, you don't really see that. So it just drops out. You have to look for it in your receipt. So handling your account well means that you should take into account that, into consideration that these fees are on it when you are doing your transaction. So, and that's for online purchases. We just saw 2% here. I'm also seeing this is $23 in this bank's case for use at international points of sale.
$23.
Yes. So you can see. So the idea is to take a look, and to see what is there that you can benefit from when you are using it.
Okay. In terms of your account, though, having, or should I say, utilizing the services by the bank that you are with, if they have an online banking service,
Yes.
I think that would be something that everybody would want to look into so they could really see in real time what's going on with their account.
That's correct. And the banks, and I mean, let's say the whole economy, everybody is pushing to use, pushing cashless and pushing to use, well, more and more cashless and pushing to use banks, less checks and less walking into the banks. You're also being encouraged to use the ATM. And so, you want to pay attention to how, check and see how your use of your card for online transactions are taken care of as far as the cost of operating your account is concerned. So there is the convenience, but we have to make sure that the convenience that we are enjoying is financially also more beneficial than the cost that we incur in when we carry out the transaction. And very often it is really to practice good online protocols. That's really where it is for safety, but also practice good online protocols for use of the card for purchasing. So where you can bulk purchase or fill your basket and make one transaction, you might find it financially more economical for you than where you are making snap, 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 because those are quite a series of transactions that are taking place there. See?
Yeah. In terms of depositing a check at the ATM, there's normally a little bit of time, where the bank takes to process it and find out if the person who you got the check from, if they have funds there before it's transferred to your account. Is that something that we need to know as well in terms of how long that takes and if there's a fee associated with that?
Yeah, it's very important, and that has been reduced more and more, especially in recent years, because not only do we have less use of checks, but we also have new payment measures like the electronic funds transfer, which happens seamlessly, and the verification of the balances, therefore the transfer of balances between banks are much more timely and efficient these days than they used to be. But that's important to know with your bank, because what it means is that the money is there on the account, but you don't have access to it. You don't have access to it until the bank clears the check, so to speak, until the check is cleared. So you want to be careful about that, because you don't want to go and spend what you think you have because you deposited it at the bank's ATM or across the teller, and then you expect that you have it. You really don't have it as yet. So you want to be careful about that as well. That's correct. So in handling your account well, you check to see, and as I say, less and less checks are being used, but people now receive dividend payment from companies that they are shareholders of using checks still in many cases. Some insurance companies are still, they have not yet really
checks.
fully, they have not yet fully transferred to paying people by deposit to their bank accounts. So there's still quite a bit of checks in use right now. And so what you want to do, the easiest way to get your cash is you go exactly to the bank on which the cash is drawn from the person paying you. But the reality is that you really just want to deal with your bank, so you put it in there. Be careful that there will be a number of days, so you know what those days are, so that you can know when it is that you have use and access to the money.
ATMs, because we were talking about banking checks through your ATM, and I know some people are very old school and they do not want to use that service at all. They prefer to go in a line and stand in front of a teller, give them the check, and you get the money. They prefer that way. But, I think the ATMs are pretty safe to use if you want to go that route as well. To use the ATM, is it a free service? I know you were saying that for some banks, if you use it or make withdrawals, up to a certain point, then after that is like, oh, okay, and so you get charged.
Right. Let's look at this bank here, and I go to ATM. Daily ATM withdrawal limits 1,500. ATM withdrawals 5 free debits per month. And then we have
3. Sorry, even me, I'm like, really 3 a month? But continue.
No,
sorry.
5.
Oh, 5. Oh, okay.
Five,
Okay.
Yes. 5 free a month. But when tell you, Sean, for a lot of us, the difference between 5 and 3 as a month go is a smaller. So somebody might still say only 5. And the thing about it is that what we're thinking is that, hey, this is my money. Why are you charging me to access my money?
Yeah, it's like that commercial we see on TV. It's my money and I want it now. Anyway.
But here what we say in the bank, we often forget that banks are businesses. They're in it for profit. There really is no charity there. They deal with us for good customer relation. We might enjoy dealing with them based on the things that they do and the facilities that they give us. ATM and ATM machines, point of sale, all of these are convenience for us, the consumers. What happens with convenience? You end up paying for convenience, and this is where fees and charges come in. Now, one thing I will show you though is that looking over the collated fees from the ECCB's website, and also one or two of those that we have here, these banks, and you can get it by country, you can get it individual banks. And I went to two banks' websites. I have the fees up here. The ATM fees are actually lower than the fees for transactions at the teller. So it is actually cheaper to do certain transactions using the ATM than making the line and walking into the bank. So that should be an important, interesting point for persons as well to know.
Yeah, because, I'm one of those people who don't like to go in banks anymore. Sorry. Ever since the pandemic, and the whole 6 feet apart, forget the bank. Well, being in the bank. ATMs all the way. We only have, that's the time already. Okay, so in asking our what seems to be now our final question, as we speak about savings, do all bank saving accounts have interest? Do they pay interest on it? Do all of them do, or some do and some don't?
Yes, and that's usually a big shock for younger persons, as they begin to earn money and then they look for the interest. they we with the low level of financial awareness, financial education, we don't really make the difference between saving money in the bank and investing money, say like in a stock exchange or in a certificate of deposit or in a money market account or mutual fund. But in general, if a bank account gives interest, it is usually at a very low rate, right? So the emphasis on savings account is really, and general, operating accounts at the bank is on keeping your money safe, taking, the safeguards and giving you the facility to conduct your business, neat and nice. But you would want to move from there. If you want interest, you would want to move from there and ask your bank about those banking products that gives you a higher rate of interest than the small, 2-point-something, 3%. Those are very small. But if you took, term deposits, for example, so what you can do, and Money Matters Tips would have already mentioned that, you have accounts where you try to gain interest rate over time because you don't need the money for another year or 3 years. So you create your fixed deposit accounts and you get higher rates on those. And then your ordinary regular saving accounts, your emergency fund accounts, you keep them there. Those will be at lower rates. So you have some accounts like checking accounts and, personal checking accounts, those don't carry any interest rates at all, So you want to be clear on the different types of accounts that are there and the one that you are operating.
Okay, what are your closing thoughts? Because we're right down to the wire now.
Well, let's leave it right there and, try to come back next week. I would say, again, it's critical to examine your own relationship with your banks, your own bank account. All banks are not equal, so you may find better products somewhere else, or you may find it possible to combine products. As we say, diversification is very important for stability. And so pay attention to it. Read the statements that you receive. There are fees that you can avoid. Ask how you can avoid the fees. There are products that you can enjoy at lower rates from the banks. Ask about it. It doesn't hurt to ask, and make sure that you are monitoring. Always, the cost that you do not incur is money that you save. Money that you save is money that helps you build your financial health and help you build your wealth.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Francis, for another great program. I'm sure our listeners are even more educated on how to save some money in their savings accounts. Yeah, and handling your accounts. All right. Well, take care.
Thank you very much. And good day to you. Good day to everyone.
All right. Bye.